Warrant Officer Dennis Brown was a 38-year-old Sir Winston Churchill graduate, a special constable with the Niagara Regional Police, when a roadside bomb claimed his life outside Kandahar City, March 3rd, 2009. His son Mack was 12 years old at the time. He joins us today. Mack, I remember the memorial service so well in the city of St. Catharines at the Lincoln and Welland Regiment, people lining the streets. What was your experience that day as a 12-year-old, experiencing the loss of your father and sharing it with the community?
I mean, obviously it was a very difficult time for myself, for my brothers and all my family, but seeing the amount of support that we had in Niagara and just kind of everyone coming out and taking some time out of their day to show some love and respect was amazing. I think it really shows to the character of Niagara, and again, especially to my Lincoln and Welland family and all the friends that came out.
Were you shocked to see that many people coming out to show support?
Oh yeah, especially being 12 years old, you don't really realize how big the community is, and I think that was kind of an event for me that just showed how big it is and how much support there was.
Your stepmother talked, Mishelle, that day. Your stepsister as well, Jenna, spoke. How emotional was that for you to watch them up on that stage?
It very tough, because I mean, I think it takes a long time for an event like that, something so traumatic, but it takes a while for it to kick in. And I remember for at least a few weeks, it kind of felt like a very weird dream. So in that moment, especially at the funeral, seeing everyone speak and share all these memories, it was definitely a time where for me, it sunk in and I realized kind of what had happened. And again, but it was good to be there with all my loved ones.
After his death, a lot of the news coverage focused on what your stepmother said to the news, the fact that she knew this was going to happen. She and Dennis, your father, had spoken about it. Had you been aware that those conversations were taking place? Were you prepared?
Yeah. So I mean, my dad was a huge family man. So when obviously he was going to decide to go overseas and do this, there's a lot of risk to it. And even though we were young, I think he did a really good way of letting us know that what he was doing was dangerous. So I have a pretty vivid memory of being in a hot tub with him before he had gone for his pre-deployment training, and him just kind of explaining what he was doing and the dangers and kind of what could happen. So in that sense, we were kind of prepared. So yeah, what my stepmom said was 100% true. We had those conversations, not the same one that she had, because obviously I was 12, but again, we still had that conversation, and he made it known that what he was doing was dangerous and that he may not come home, but he was going to do everything he could to come home.
I believe when Dennis lost his life, he was about number 112 to do so in Afghanistan. There was 158 in total. Every time the news came about somebody else losing their lives in that conflict, what went through your mind?
Just tough, because obviously we look at those numbers and it's terrible. And again, now being in the military, I knew that every single one of them went over with a great heart and were believing the cause and wanted to help where they could. So it's tough in that sense. But for me now, it's even tougher because that number doesn't actually show the families and friends that have been affected, the best friends, the kids, the wives, the husbands, whatever the case may be. But so hearing those numbers and hearing the people that fall, I knew that it rippled a lot further in the communities, and I think we obviously felt it across the country. But
so true, and what a great way to put it into perspective as well. I want to talk about how your dad has influenced you, because I'm sitting here with someone who followed his dad into the Lincoln and Welland Regiment, who followed his dad into a job with the Niagara Regional Police as well. So obviously you were extremely influenced by his life in general.
100%. I to this day still look up to him, and like hearing all the stories from friends and families of how he was growing up and when he got in the military and the passion that he had for it definitely instilled into me. And I think he raised us in a way and kind of showed us how to be a good person. And I think I've tried to take those and implement them into my life. And it just so happens that some of those steps I've taken the exact same footsteps that he has. But yeah, no, he definitely kind of showed and instilled at an early age kind of the values that I appreciated and wanted to make sure that when I grew up to become a man and a father, that I wanted to do the same thing. So
when you joined the Lincoln and Welland Regiment, what was that experience like? Because you would have been putting on that uniform for the first time among people who really knew Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the challenge of joining the military was there for me, so I wasn't fully thinking about it, but I know talking to a lot of guys at the unit, it was tough to see. People say I look a lot like my dad, so seeing me put on the uniform and come to the unit, I think for a lot of other people was difficult too. And then for me, obviously, that was always in the back of my mind, is that I wanted to do it for him and make sure that I did it right, and obviously didn't fail the course and get kicked out. So I tried my very hardest, but I wasn't super focused on that at the time.
For about a year now, you've been working as a constable with the Niagara Regional Police. What has that experience been like?
Phenomenal. I have nothing but respect for everybody there, and again, I've learned a lot, and being able to help my community a little closer to home, I think, is something that I always wanted to do. So I love the military and I love Lincoln and Welland, but this is kind of my new home and my new way that I can kind of help.
Obviously, your father influenced you in your love for your country and your love for your community and your desire to serve. Do you feel that you honor Dennis every time you put on your NRP uniform, every time you put on your Lincoln and Welland Regiment uniform?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things for anyone that lost a loved one is you always think of like what they think or how they see you. And I know, at least for me, just from the way that my dad lived his life and the values that he had, excuse me, that this is something that he would be proud of for me to do. So it gives me a smile when I put my uniform on, for sure.
Between 2009 and today, I'm sure that you and your family members were called upon to many Remembrance Day services to be the public face of the family left behind when someone is lost in conflict. What was that experience like?
The experience is always awesome. I mean, the legions are phenomenal, always organized and make you feel welcome. Obviously our Niagara community is awesome for that too. And then again, for me now, because I'm serving, I usually do it with the Lincoln and Welland Regiment, and it's always great.
Can you share some of the memories that you developed with your father over those first 12 years of your life?
He obviously worked a lot and had his own life that he had to do, but when he came home, he always spent time with us. I can remember playing video games in the living room with him. And again, to me, those were the precious moments when it was just kind of me and him. And again, with the family as well. But we did a lot of trips. We'd always go camping, hiking. We did an awesome Florida trip too. And he just, regardless of how busy he was, my dad always made time for his family and made sure that we did something memorable. And again, it's hard to pick moments when everything he did with us was something that I'll cherish forever. So,
did the whole experience bring you and your siblings closer together as a unit?
Yeah, we always joke, and I'm sure Owen and Ben will see us and they're probably laughing. But like for the brothers wise, we love each other and we support each other, but we couldn't be any more different. Like we all have our own different things. Me with the military policing, my brother's always a phenomenal dancer, and then Ben is more of a construction guy. So we're all different in our own ways, but at the end of the day, we know that we have each other's backs, and with these kind of tough moments, they obviously build a bond, and we'll have that forever. So,
Mack, thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to see you following in your father's footsteps.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and thanks for taking the time to speak with me.